talkSPORT going to bring you live coverage of the Women's Euros, which start in just 50 days' time, where England's Lionesses will be looking to defend their European title. That's in Switzerland. We'll bring you all England, Wales, Spain games as well, plus all knockout matches, including the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, and, of course, the final. Join us now to look ahead to the tournament and talk all things Lionesses is former England assistant and current West Ham women's manager, as we say hello and good evening to the brilliant Rehanne Skinner. Rehanne, hello, good evening. How are you?
Hi, I'm fantastic, thank you. Yeah, doing well. Season's over, so tired, but I'm okay.
Yes, how I was going to ask you, I was going to sort of steer clear of the season. Well, not the greatest season for West Ham, right?
Look, we've made a lot of progress this year. It's we've worked really hard behind the scenes, and I think we were in a really good position up until the last two games. Unfortunately, if we'd have got 3 points out of those two games, out of one of those two games, we'd have finished sixth. So We've made a lot of progress from where we were. Still a bit to go, but we're competing well with the league.
Rianne, let me ask you, the men's game, it has been over the last maybe 6 to 10 years, it's cutthroat if you're a manager and results don't go your way. You're not given time. Me and Bentley were talking about Ruben Amorim just before the break, saying, like, if we don't win the Europa League, maybe you should go, which is just bonkers when you think about it. Do you get more time in the women's game, do you think?
Not really, in the way that things have evolved. That's been something that's happened more recently over, I'd say, the last 5 years. It's started to happen more. There's been 5 managers have gone this season, bearing in mind there's only 12 teams in the league, so that's obviously a big chunk, So I think the biggest thing for any manager is just knowing what the project is and everybody being transparent about that. I think for us, we knew it was going to be a project at West Ham and on the women's side, and I think we've looked to evolve things on and off the pitch as much as we can. So it's important. The turnover just creates more disruption, and a lot of the time, the things that are actually affecting what you're doing aren't solely to do with the manager. So that's just the facts of football now, unfortunately.
Rianne, I want to ask you about, obviously, the Lionesses now. Nations League coming up, a couple of games before the tournament starts. We've seen the squad announcement as well. Any surprises in the squad for you?
Obviously, the players that have got an opportunity, Ella Morris, Missy Kearns, they've been playing really, really well within the league itself and also in the 23s. And that's kind of what the process is for the 23s, is to prepare players when there's opportunities. And Lauren James is still not fully fit, with the hamstring issue. Georgia Stanway's still not played over in Germany since her knee issue. So I think there's a couple of opportunities there for players to play well. But, honestly, I think when it comes round to the tournament, if those players are available, Alex Greenwood, Lauren Hemp, Georgia Stanway, Lauren James, those will be the ones that are obviously going due to their experience.
Rianne, what do you do with someone like Lauren James? Because we all know how special she is, and we've seen it certainly in the men's national team as well, where even if a couple of players are, say, 70-30, by the time they get hopefully out of the group and into the latter stages, that's when they start to play their part because they'll be fit by then. Do you take that chance with Lauren James, or is it one of those, because it's a hamstring, you have to kind of leave her behind altogether?
I'm taking the chance, if I'm honest. I think given what she brings in terms of the quality that she adds to the squad, and she's very different to anything that we've got, I think, we've got the risk of being a bit predictable if we don't have players with her type of creativity in the squad. So she brings something different. I think in the big games, when you need to unlock or have that little bit extra against the top teams, you need someone like that who can unlock those teams, and find an opportunity for us.
My knowledge of women's football before we won the Euros in 2022 was appalling. I've got 2 daughters. My youngest now plays football because of the success of the Lionesses. It really opened up so many people's eyes to one of the biggest growing sports in the world. When we came round to that Euros, there was no expectation, or hardly any. Now that has maybe multiplied by 10. How do you think Sarina Wiegman and the squad are going to cope with that pressure? Because it's so much different this time around, isn't it?
Yeah, first of all, I'm smiling because just the amount of work that's gone in to kind of elevate the game to get to that point in the last Euros is just it's so good to hear that that's impacted your daughter playing the game, and I'm sure hundreds and hundreds of others as well. That's the impact that they've all had. I think naturally the fact that they're the title holders, so to speak, is more pressure, but the squad's changed, and in that time you've got to constantly keep evolving and be able to make sure that you maintain the principles that you play against, evolving as a team to be able to beat these other nations, and you bring in those players through that are going to help the longevity of England teams. I mean, it's been a long time since someone's done it back to back in the women's game, so I think it's always going to be a bit of a test. But at the same time, as I say, the players that were coming off the bench then, your Russos, Ella, Toons, and having such a big impact, this is their chance to kind of go that one step further as a starting player, given those experiences. So the players are going to want to keep that title to themselves,
How different, how big is the pool of players that you now get to choose from with young girls coming through in the game? Because I mentioned that my daughter plays, she's 13. She hadn't even watched a game of football before the Lionesses won at Wembley, and now she absolutely loves it. My wife takes you during the week, I take her on weekends. But from your perspective as the manager of West Ham, you must see a gigantic change in the amount of girls that want to play the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously the knock-on effect of that, I think, won't necessarily be evident at my level for a little while longer, because it's only a few years ago, and obviously the players that you're talking about are coming in at the bottom end in terms of age group, so it's going to take a few years.
Yeah.
Naturally, that pool is now getting bigger and bigger. So, of course, as time evolves, you would expect that, like, the umbrella of players that are available to evolve the game just naturally getting bigger and bigger. But it could be 10 years before we see some of them 8, 9-year-olds that were loving the game at that point. I think the biggest change has just been the fans' perception of that. So the fan base has grown right here, right now for the WSL, for example. We've still got a lot of work to do with that, but I think that's definitely changed the narrative on what women's football at the highest level looks like. So there's more fans come out, and with that, that's young families, young players, and young girls, boys and girls watching our games. So I think that's when we'll start to see it evolve over time.
We obviously know that England, they won the Euros in 2022, got to the World Cup final also in 2023. How would you assess their performances since then? What shape do you think they are going into this tournament? And also, being in a group with France, Wales and Netherlands, it's going to be difficult, right?
Yeah, it's a really tough group. Yeah. I mean, I don't think the form's been brilliant, if I'm honest. Some of the games that they've played in, obviously there's the Belgium game that was won recently by Belgium. But, I think the biggest thing is they've looked a little bit inconsistent with performances, and some of the key people that have been involved in that. Alex Greenwood, for me, is a big player for England, and I know she's been out with injury for a long time, but she's a real solid left-footed left back or left centre half, but a big character off the pitch as well. I think that's led to, not just her, but other players in and around there that really need to sort of strengthen the leadership within that group to make sure that they're driving every single game forward. But I think one of the biggest problems that we've had over recent years is just the calendar. You talked about 2 major tournaments. All of the time these players are playing every single summer. The calendar is absolutely relentless. And I think some of the games in international breaks, and certainly for me at West Ham as well, I've had players all over the world in these international breaks. When you're doing that year on year on year and not really getting that time back, you do get a little bit stagnant at times. So I think this period's going to be really key after the Nations League. Get a little bit of a breather, make sure everybody comes back fresh, everybody's prepared properly for the Euros. It's not a lot of time, but hopefully they find some time to come back in the best condition.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there Alex Greenwood. I think her, Lauren Hemp and Georgia Stanworth are all back in the squad, haven't featured in 2025. How big is that for Sarina Wiegman and having them back in the squad?
It's massive. I mean, I think last year Georgia started every single game in midfield, so I think that's something that's really important to the team. And Lauren Hemp's finished top on assists in the league this year. She hasn't played for half a season, so I think when you're looking at the calibre of these players, it's so important. And as I mentioned, Alex Greenwood's got such strong leadership skills that you need that to galvanise the team. And she's a winner. Everything's about winning. So I think those 3 players will add a huge value back into the team.
Rianne, you've been great. Thanks so much for coming. I'm sure we'll speak to you many more times throughout the Euros, but for the time being, always a pleasure. Have a lovely day.
Thank you, and you.
Thank you. There you go. Rehanne Skinner, as I mentioned, the current West Ham women's manager. A reminder, talkSPORT will bring you live coverage of the Women's Euros. It starts in just 50 days' time, where England's Lionesses will be looking to defend their European title in Switzerland.